to start your life.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Just Jordan Things, where today we're going to be doing bread making. We're making sourdough bread together, and I'm going to show you every single possible step there is. If you've ever wanted to make bread, this is the time. We're going to do it now. I'm going to list out all the things that you need, and don't worry, if you don't have any of the things, you can always just bookmark this, come back, and hang out with us today. What was I going to say? This is going to be difficult for me because this is the longest live I've ever done, and I'm going to be teaching you how to do something that I'm pretty well versed in making sourdough bread, but I'm not an expert by any means yet. So this will be a journey together. So most importantly, kitchen scale. Kitchen scale is the first thing you need. All-purpose flour and bread flour. You need both. You need a big mixing bowl and something to mix your dough with. Probably most importantly, you need sourdough starter fed the night before. That's kind of the most important part, and I tried to put all the details in the description and in the comments, but if you don't have this, there is a sourdough starter off of Amazon that you can purchase, and then it has the instructions for how to feed it. I will go over how to feed your sourdough as well, but I can't do it because I already fed mine, and then I can't make bread if I already fed it, whole thing. But basically, you take 50 grams of your starter, and then you mix it with 100 grams of flour and distilled water, not purified water, not tap water. Very important things. What else do you need? Oh, to bake after the, 12 hours of this, you will need either a Dutch oven or bread pans, and you need a cover. So that is also an important thing. But let's get to it. Let's start making bread. Grant's here too. You gonna make me coffee too? Bread making is so much fun, and I will tell you right now, your first loaf, it's not gonna look good. Just accept that now. If you've made bread before, you understand. This is a intensive process, and my first 3 loaves, they were all right. They weren't perfect. Our coffee machine is so loud. All right, get your kitchen scales. So we're going to put, my goodness, what are you making?
Same per usual. This is how it sounds.
This is what it's like to have a kitchen. You love my apron? Thank you. I do too. I love the little bows on it right here. And it's got the little frills on the side too. I'm sorry if y'all can't hear me over our loud coffee machine. After you make me coffee? All right. First things first. Oh, and look at my little bowl. First things first. We're going to tare our bowl on our coffee machine. So zero out the weight of your bowl on your coffee machine, on your scale. I haven't had coffee yet. Then we're going to take, I need the recipe. Where is it? I have to refer to this every single time now. This isn't it. That's carrot cake. Have you seen my recipe page? There it is. Here it is. If any of you want to take a screenshot now, this is what we're going to be doing. Hello, Wanda. I was also a few minutes late this morning, so no problem. We're just getting started. So we're going to take 100 grams of our active starter, and we're going to put it in the bowl. Something to note about starter. My starter, I fed it yesterday, and you can kind of see the little bubbles. Let me see if I can tip it. Can you see the bubbles that are on top of it? That is a fully active starter. That's where you want it to be when you're going to start cooking with it. It takes anywhere from 6 to 12 hours to get a fully active starter. And it takes time for your starter to, if you're just getting a new one, it takes time for it to grow into its flavor. I don't know the real sciencey terms behind it, but the bubbles are good. And this one is almost on the down end of being active and ready.
What coffee do you want?
Can you just make me Americano? Please and thank you. 100 grams going in the bowl. Oh, that's too much. That's too much. And see, the good thing about starting with just sourdough starter is you can take some out. All right, now I like to put the spoon in the bowl when I tear for the next round because there's a little bit of sourdough starter on there that I want to get off. So we're going to reset to 0 with the sourdough starter in there, and then we're going to put water, which we're going to put 350 grams of distilled water. I use this guy. 350 grams. What's going on over there? All right. Water goes fast, so slow down while you're pouring towards the end, right about like 300, 325. You want to kind of like stop and let it settle for a minute because it does race up on your scale. Where do you store your starter after you make it till you use it? So this is my starter jar, and I keep this in the fridge for a week. And then I take it out, I feed it, and then after that, I put it back in the fridge. So while you're, that was a bad explanation. Hold on, let me give her a paper towel and I'll do it better. So you store your sourdough starter in the fridge and you feed it once a week. Sometimes you can get away with once every 2 weeks. It's a temperamental little thing. You just don't want to kill it. You don't want to starve it. So when you are getting ready to use your starter, when you feed it, you'll leave it out overnight on the counter. And then if you don't end up using it or after you use it, you can put it back in the fridge after that time. Dun, dun, dun. I believe that the fridge process just helps preserve the amount of time that you need to feed your starter in between. So I want to say you can leave your starter out on your counter permanently, but don't quote me on that because I'm not going to do it with mine. I'm not going to test that theory because I only have this. Back in the fridge it goes. Okay, at this point, we are going to mix our starter and our water together. Give it a good incorporated mixture. All right, and once that's nice and incorporated, back on the scale, zero it out again. And now we've got flour. Now, the key to this delicious tasting recipe is using 2 different types of flour, all-purpose flour and bread flour. But if you don't have bread flour, I think you can just do it with all-purpose flour. So let me see here. there are 500 grams of flour total. You're going to use 375 grams of bread flour and 125 grams of regular, nope, I messed that up. 375 of all-purpose, 125 of bread flour. It's really, guys, I haven't had my coffee yet, which is done. Oh my goodness, it's full to the brim. All right. 375 all-purpose flour, 125 bread flour. Bread flour has a higher gluten content, I believe. Get out of there. And you can mix and match between the two as testing. You know, I sometimes add a little bit extra bread flour, a little bit less all-purpose flour, but as long as it totals 500 grams at the very end, that's what you want. So here we go. 375 of all-purpose. Oh my goodness, I'm almost out of flour. Okay, 353. 3. Oh, too much. 370. Oh, come on. All right. Perfect. I did it right in one go. Now I tare again. And you want to zero out between every single measurement so you don't have to do the math of getting to the next level, unless you just want to do 500 total grams of flour and then you're just kind of mixing and matching. Do whatever you like. What is going on with my scale? Oh, it wasn't centered. That could be a problem for later. And then 125. I'm going to do a little bit less because I think my scale added like 20 grams of that other flour. So that's good. And you can always add a little bit more flour after this phase because you can tell depending on how runny it is. Good morning. Welcome in, Trish. I'm excited that you guys are here to hang out with us if you're not making bread, and I am even more excited if you are making bread with us and want to see your bread afterwards somehow. We'll figure out how to do this. Okay, you can see the canisters with lids. See how freaking cool that is? I use them all the time, and I absolutely love them. Yeah, I really just did my baking cabinet, all of the containers, and it has helped so much keep organized and have everything just kind of easy to grab. I can see from the cabinet, and if I'm telling Grant oh, I need the baking soda, I don't have to be oh, the one with the white tin, but oh yeah, last time I bought a different brand, or it's the yellow box, or it's just all labeled. It's easy to see. And it's up tall, so I need a tall person to grab it for me most of the time. Mix your dough. So we're going to mix all of that together until it looks shaggy, which that is a weird definition of bread. But alas, here we are. I'll show you mine. And you don't want to over mix at this stage, but you also don't want to under mix. So you want to make sure you've gotten all the flour off the bottom, off the sides. You can kind of pull your dough like this to the sides to make sure that it is getting it all. You're scraping it all at the bottom. You're scraping it all at the sides, and it's getting incorporated. And then I will show you what shaggy looks like at this stage. Scrape that off. It's going to be a little sticky. It's going to be a little gooey at this stage, which is good. That's what we want. But we're not going to need our mixers after this point because we're going to be using our hands. So this is shaggy dough. This is what you want it to be looking like. See the little pieces here, how they're not really like smooth and incorporated? This is perfect. We're going to let this sit. Grab a kitchen towel, a t-shirt, something semi-permeable. Cover it up. And this is going to sit for 25 minutes. Okay, Google, set a timer for 25 minutes.
All right. 25 now. Starting now.
Oh, man. That morning cough thing going on. So let's talk about this next step because it can set for 25 to 40 minutes, depending on what your dough looks like at the end. And I will show you what mine looks like. And it all depends on if your dough is super runny, how your starter is active, and the temperature of your kitchen. So those are all the variables that could differentiate between what my bread looks like and your bread looks like. My house is pretty warm. It's the summer. That's why I love making bread in summer, because I don't have to use my oven proofing setting. But if you are in a generally cold house, you can put your bread somewhere that it is going to be warmer, and that will help these next phases, especially during bulk fermentation. If your sourdough is still goopy or runny or shaggy by the end of this 25 minutes, let it rest a little bit longer before you mess with it again. But we will go into more details. I'm going to go get a chair. Hold, please. This is the part where we just sit and hang out. Where did I get them? I got them from the OXO store directly because they have discounts on like big groups of them, but you can also get them on Amazon, which I think I have my Amazon linked somewhere, either in the description, if it's up there for you, down there for you, or in the comments at the very start. I pinned a comment with a link to my Amazon storefront, but that might just be the bread making ones. They do look really nice on the counters, which is another plus. Has anyone here made bread before? What type of bread? Do you like making bread? Or are we all newbies? I've realized that in the last year, I have spent so much more time in the kitchen, and it went from not being able to cook anything correctly and just like falling forward to now I can basically cook anything from scratch. I can make bread, I make yogurt, I make butter, I grow my own things in the garden. It went from 0 to 100 real quick. But I also want to use that as like an encouraging story for the rest of you that might not feel like you can do something, right? Because the first loaf of bread I made 4 months ago now, it was like a rock. I didn't put the right amount of something in. I don't know. I messed it up completely, entirely. And it wasn't even sourdough. It wasn't even a hard bread. It was just water and flour and yeast. I think I didn't activate the yeast. I think that was the problem. But moving from that, 6 months ago, I didn't even know I wanted to make bread. 3 months ago, I made the worst possible loaf of bread that can barely be considered bread. Now today, fast forward, I'm teaching other people how to make bread because I've figured it out. And that goes with anything that you're starting new, anything that you're trying out for the first time. It's going to be terrible the first time you do it. But you just have to progress and learn. And that's how you build the confidence to do it. You like butter, banana nut, pumpkin, zucchini bread's the best. Ooh, banana nut bread is one of my favorites. Banana bread. What is going on with my hair? I look like a pineapple. Banana bread is absolutely delicious. And I love bananas. I was gonna tell you something. I completely forgot what it was though. It'll come back to me. Don't worry. We're talking about bread. We're talking about confidence. Talking about sourdough. Oh, let's talk more about sourdough and why it takes so long to rise. Because I just learned this from the friend that taught me how to make bread. You don't use yeast in sourdough, right? That's the starter is what makes it rise, and why it takes so much longer than regular bread, because the starter needs time to activate. You can introduce yeast into your mixture to cut down on the bulk fermentation and rise time of your bread so that you can make it in the same day without it taking 16 hours. But the yeast is what makes it more harmful when we're digesting it. So the sourdough is easier on the digestive system, which is why a lot of people like to eat bread. You're too afraid. Don't be afraid. You love eating bread, but okay, so here's the thing. There's also bread makers, and bread makers are the best thing I've ever discovered, because you just throw all the ingredients in there. Literally, you're just like, blah, 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 push a button, and then it's off. It's off to the races. And then in like 6 hours, you have a freshly baked loaf of bread, and you basically did nothing, but you made bread. That is a classification of you did it. You've been trying to master making the old-fashioned fried Baptist pies, still not mastered it like your aunt used to make. I have not even heard of those, but they sound delicious, and that sounds so much fun. You have a bread maker, but not used it yet? Oh, you got to try using your bread maker. I absolutely love mine, and we don't really buy bread from the store anymore because of how easy the bread maker is to use. And you just pop it in there. Literally, I think you put the wet ingredients and then you put the dry ingredients and then just push the button. Homemade butter and with homemade bread. Need a tutorial on making butter too. Butter is the easiest thing in the world to make. I was shocked with how easy it is to make. Do you have a stand mixer or a hand mixer? Because you can make it either way. And even if you don't have a hand mixer, you can technically make it just by shaking butter for like an hour, but unless you really want to work out. I don't recommend that version. But to make butter, you take heavy whipping cream, you pour it in the bucket, and then you turn it on high for 20 minutes. Done. We might actually be able to make butter today. Hold on. Let me see my stock of heavy whipping cream. Aha. I do have some. We can make butter. Butter is super fun to make too. The first time I made butter, I was kind of skeptical about the process. My cousin had made it and then sent me the recipe and was like, this is all you have to do. And I was like, okay, here we go. I'm Jordan. I'm going to try it because this is what I do. And I didn't use my stand mixer because I was afraid of putting it on a high speed. I don't know why. It's literally made to do that, but I'm afraid of turning it up too high. So I used a hand mixer. And it took me an hour and a half because I kept stopping and sending her pictures and asking if I was doing it right or if it was, done yet, or, there's a bunch of different stages because you basically get whipped. Like it turns into like whipped cream and then you keep going from there and then it starts to curdle and then you keep going from there. And then the buttermilk separates from the fats and solidifies whatever. But I kept asking her, I was like, am I doing this wrong? What's happening? And she's like, keep going, just keep going, just keep going. And then finally I did have butter, and it is the most delicious butter you will ever have in the entire world. It is very easy. It's surprisingly easy, but I will recommend covering your stand mixer with something because it is messy. It is incredibly messy once it gets to the separation stage. And if you don't catch it at the right time, you'll have buttermilk everywhere. Quite literally everywhere. Homemade bread with homemade butter sounds divine. If only I was not allergic to butter. Oh no! How are you allergic to butter? Is it like a lactose thing? Or is it something else in butter? Is there a substitute for butter? I guess like oil. Like there's a vegetable shortening butter, right? I wonder how I wonder if it's the same process. There's got to be some sort of additive you add into the oil to solidify it. Allergic to butter, cheese, milk, and vinegar. Wow, I don't think I've ever heard of anyone with a vinegar allergy, but vinegar is in everything. So I can only imagine how difficult it is to try to navigate food labels and make sure you're not getting any of those. I also tried to stay away from lactose for a while. I am not allergic, and I don't know if I'm necessarily lactose intolerant because I can eat processed milks and cheeses to an extent. Let's clarify to a certain level. But I think mine is more digestive health related than an allergy. My gut just doesn't like me. So you can't have pickles. That's very sad. But I'm sure that if you're allergic to vinegar, you probably don't have the same, like, oh, that smells good when you smell something vinegary. It's oh, it smells like I'm gonna die. That's not what we want. Same with people and peanuts. I'm sure if you're allergic to peanuts, you don't like the smell of peanut butter because it reminds you of, potentially ending up in the hospital. Not an ideal, enjoyable situation that you should probably associate with. I feel like if it's the allergy towards lactose, it wouldn't matter if it's organic or not. Can you drink lactose-free milk? Because I have to drink lactose-free milk now. I can't just drink straight milk because that will just ruin me. Or is it something, an enzyme in the actual milk? I'm so curious now. Hope you don't mind me prying. I always love hearing about people's allergies because I don't really have allergies as extensive as other people, and it fascinates me that we're allergic to something that is so prevalent. I have a friend that's allergic to I have a friend that's allergic to shellfish and peanuts, and he is not as careful as he should be about them. I'm like, what level is your allergy? Is it like you get a little itchy, or does your throat like close up? Do you carry an EpiPen with you? He's like, well, I have one at home. I probably should carry it, but like I don't. I was like, should one of us be carrying it? Do I need to tell your girlfriend to carry it? Your breathing gets shallow and you need an EpiPen. That's pretty severe. That's pretty do not do not touch that thing. That's hard too because a lot of things are made with butter, like cookies and cookies and cookies. You can only drink almond or coconut milk as regular milk. Puts me to sleep like I've taken a sleeping pill. Got it. I only drink I really like coconut milk in my coffee now. And then we only drink lactose-free milk at home. And then I don't really like the almond milk. It just has a weird aftertaste. I'm not a big fan of it. And oat milk. I do like oat milk. I do want to get of course I do. There's a little machine that you can make your own almond and oat milk at home. And basically, you just throw a couple cups of oats in there. You throw a date in there for a little sweetness and the water, and then it mixes it all up, and you have oat milk, an unlimited supply. And it's way cheaper than going to the store and buying the $7 for a quarter of a gallon. You can have you can have margarine. Do not like the taste, so I do not have it at all. Yeah, that's margarine. It's not butter. I can't believe it's not butter because it's not. It's not butter. What's my time on my timer? All right, we got 10 minutes left before the next phase. And the next phase is when we start to get really exciting. So, we're going to add 10 grams of salt and 25 grams of water and use our hands to mix at the next stage. So if everybody wants to go get their salt out now, make sure we have salt. My friend yesterday brought over guacamole to our party and realized that he ran out of salt while he was making it. So check your salt levels. This is your PSA to check how much salt you have. Do you need to go get more? Honey, do you want to come talk to us? Do you want to come chit chat with us about bread?
I don't know much about bread.
That's even better.
That's even better.
Oh boy.
Okay.
He's awake. He's got the puns going this morning. Come on, honey. Look, I have a chair set up for you and everything. We can never coffee chats with our bread. He'll come over here eventually. Enzyme in the actual chemical DNA makeup of dairy products. Interesting. Okay. Now, is it just cow milk or is it also goat milk? Because I know there's a little bit of a difference in their chemical makeup, but it's not that different because they're both produced from animals. So I'd be interested to know if it's also goat milk. Because then you could potentially just substitute goat milk butter. I don't know how that works. I don't know how different they are. Oh, I did see something recently about poison ivy. Someone had poison ivy on their land and they have a goat. And they made their goat eat the poison ivy to drink the milk so that they will no longer be susceptible to the poison ivy poison. It cures poison ivy. If you make your goat eat that and then it like filters it through its milk and you drink the milk, that's a cure for poison ivy. It blew my mind. I'm going to redo my pineapple hair away from the bread. I don't think the same thing happens with cows though. Unless, I don't know, someone with a cow needs to test this out. Someone get a cow and get poison ivy. We need to test this theory. But I'm also wondering, could it be something that the cows are eating and are fed in their environment that are mass-produced milk industry that is affecting your allergy to it? Like if it was just like raw from your own cow, could you test what the diet of the cow is eating to fix your allergy to the milk? I don't know. This is too much science. I'm not a scientist. Don't listen to me. It's all just very interesting to me. I want to solve the world's allergy problems one goat at a time. We also did see there are landscaping goats that you can hire to basically level out your property. If you have a bunch of weeds or something, you can hire a herd of goats to come and eat everything. And then their poop fertilizes all of the ground. I think it's genius. I think it's absolutely genius. And goats are cheap, especially if you're getting paid to feed them by the people that you're sending the goats off to. You've gotten used to it, been like that since I was a kid. I assume as much. Yeah, after enough time of trying to avoid something or substituting things, you just get into a routine and a habit and it becomes normal life. It's no different. I know the things that I should be avoiding. I know the things that I can't avoid. And I know the things that are going to make me very, very tired the next day if I eat them because of how bad my tummy is going to hurt. Both cow and goat milk. Okay. So it's just milk. Any kind of milk. Why do we call oat milk and almond milk milk? What is the is it because they're just white or because they're a substitute for milk? Also, how is milk made in mammals? These are way too many questions this early in the morning. I'm going to think about it too hard and then gross myself out the next time I go to drink milk. 5 minutes. We got 5 minutes. Is anyone doing anything fun for 4th of July tomorrow? What do you want? What are our big weekend plans? Haven't figured that out either. I guess since it's a substitute. That's my easiest guess is the transition and the marketing purpose behind it was why they called it that. It's to psych us out so we think we're drinking milk. How would you like oatmeal juice? I don't think I'd like oatmeal juice. I'm surprised they didn't come up with some other type of name for it though. All right, worst possible names for oat milk substitute. I can't think of any. Liquid something. Instead of Quaker oats, it's Quaker liquid. That's bad. That's gross. Too far. Estrogen in males produce milk like humans, not males, animals, females. There are studies that they've done on getting males to lactate though by introducing estrogen. So it's not far off. It's not far off. Estrogen oats. But okay, I understand that the estrogen is the hormone that tells our body to make it, but we're not drinking estrogen, right? Now I'm thinking of like babies, like human babies. Is it some sort of like mixture of blood? I'm very interested in all of this. I know it's water because you got to stay very hydrated when you're breastfeeding. We need a doula. We need a scientist doula. Having a picnic on the 4th of July and fireworks. Oh, that sounds fun. We actually just bought a picnic table that turns into a bench for our backyard. We used it yesterday and had like a little picnic with all of our friends over. Eating out is interesting. Get the strangest looks from servers because of your allergies. Oh, I can imagine. No cheese, no butter, no just adding or subtracting everything and asking all of the questions. I remember when my cousin first discovered he was celiac, gluten intolerant. And this was back 10 years ago before it was like a popular I'm gluten intolerant thing and not a lot of businesses understood it. But the lengths of hoops he would have to jump through to make sure something he was eating was safe, because things can't be fried in the same batter. They can't be cooked on the same stove. They can't be placed on the same surface. So he'd have to ask all these extra questions, and they'd be like, do you want fries or not? But he's like seriously gluten into, like, he is the celiac, breaks out in hives, has to go to the hospital. It is the full thing, not just a I can't tolerate gluten, fun thing that a lot of people have decided is a diet now. Just catching up on all of your messages. Oh, you're having your picnic with your grandsons. That's so fun. Going to see the movie Sound of Freedom will be a hard one to watch, but necessary to raise awareness and support those that are trying to stop human trafficking. I have not heard of that one, but that does sound. Are you talking to me?
Oh, yeah, just recovering from yesterday.
Oh, he's on the phone now. Okay, interesting. I will have to look that up. I haven't heard of that one before. Honey, can you go upstairs or something? Or in the room if you're going to talk on the phone?
Really good. Actually, so.
Just sit there and talk while I'm talking on my live. You're going to... Oh! Timer! Okay, Google, stop. And I'm sorry in ahead of time if I set off anybody else's Google with timers. We're just going to have dual timers. You're at a barbecue at your mom's social clubhouse. That sounds fun, too. All right. Back at it. Scale back on. Uncover your dough. Here's what mine looks like. We still got some of the shagginess, but it's starting to look more like, see how it doesn't move? It's stiff. It's kind of like bulked up a little bit. That's what we want. We want it to be like a stiff, sturdy dough now. Okay, we're going to put this on here. Make sure it's in the center this time. Zero it out. I'm going to go cough over here. Oh, gosh. One of these days, I won't have this dang cough anymore. Okay, now we're going to put 10 grams of salt and 25 grams of water. Don't confuse the two. I've done that before. 10 grams of salt. 10. 9. 10. Perfect. And zero it out. Don't forget. 25. Oh, that was 23. 25. Nice. Perfect. I'm telling you, the water goes fast. And now we mush it around with our hands until it's fully incorporated. This is another step where you don't want to go too crazy with mixing it together. You want to be rough with your dough, but not abusive. You still want to maintain its like dough-like integrity, and you don't want it to separate a lot. So you don't want to be pulling pieces of the dough apart from each other. That's the best way I can explain it to you. Starting at this phase, we want our dough to not tear and start to build air bubbles within itself. So we want the salt and the water to be fully incorporated throughout, but we also want to start building the integrity of our dough ball and make it one solid piece, because the air bubbles are what's going to give you that really nice interior to get it to fluff up in the middle. So once you can kind of not feel the salt in big chunks throughout, that's when you should stop. And this is kind of when it's like a ball like this, the water's spread through, which means the salt is spread through. So we're going to stop right there. And then we're going to do a turn. So a turn is technically 3 turns. This first one, we're only going to do 2, right? Wait, once the water and salt are mixed and the dough feels more cohesive, do 1 or 2 turns. Do 1 turn, take a side of the dough furthest away, and gently lift. Okay, we'll do 2 turns. We'll do 2 full turns. 1 turn consists of 3 movements. So start with your bowl, wherever it is, dough and bowl, right? This is 12 o'clock. So this is exactly where we're going to start. You're going to scoop. Let me see if I can show you this way. You're going to scoop underneath of your dough. Pull both sides up, let it dangle a little bit, fold it in on itself. There's another way I like to do this, if that's too difficult. And then you're going to turn your bowl, like a quarter turn. Not a full quarter turn, because we're going to do 3 of these, remember? So I like to just pick up one end of my dough, let it dangle down, and then fold it on top of itself. And again, you don't want it to start tearing apart and separating. And then I'm going to turn it again. Then I'm going to pull up. I want to scoop it off the bottom. So I'm getting a good chunk of it in my hand, and then lift up, and don't lift it too far that it starts to tear, but pull it over onto itself. Get in there, get in there. It's going to be sticky. Your hands are going to be messy. We got 3 more hours of this. So that was 3 movements, and that was 1 turn. We're going to do 1 more turn. That's 3 more movements. So I'm going to scoop from the bottom, pull it up, fold it over onto itself. Turn my bowl, scoop from the bottom, and then fold it over onto itself. And as you progress through this, it gets into a tighter and tighter ball, so it gets harder to stretch it and fold it onto itself. So give it time. Give it time to stretch out, but not too much time, not too much stretching. It's all a delicate balance, and you'll learn it over time. And it's okay if your dough does rip. It'll all be fixed in the bulk fermentation section, because we're going to do a bunch more of these. So turn the last time. This is our 3rd movement of our 2nd turn. Gather that up, pull it up, fold it over, and voila, we have done it. Now it should start to look like a little dough ball, and you can name it at this stage. The point of adding salt into your whatever dough is when you can also add other flavors. If you'd like a cheesy dough, if you'd like a garlic sourdough, if you'd like a sweet sourdough, you can add sugar, you can experiment with different fruits, nuts. All of that goes in at the same point that you add in your salt. So for future reference, that's when you put it in. I'm going to go wash my hands. Okay. I would also recommend washing your spatula off that we used at the beginning now, because as the flour and water mixture solidifies, it gets very difficult to wash off of whatever you use to mix. So go back and wash that now, and then cover your dough again. And this is going to rest for 3 to 4 hours, depending on how warm your kitchen is. So I'm going to cover mine, and I'm going to put it in my oven on the bread proofing stage. If you don't have a bread proofing stage, you basically just want to put it in an environment where it's around 80 degrees. This can be in a microwave that you've heated up and then let cool, and you stick it in there. You can put it in your dryer. I've heard people do that. Run your dryer for a couple minutes, let it cool off a little bit, put your bread in there. Or an oven that you've heated up a little bit and then let cool, because you don't want it to be cooking at this stage, because it will start to cook if it's too hot. but I'm going to put it in the bread proofer. Beep, beep. And then we're going to start a timer. Okay, Google, set a timer for 3 hours.
Okay, 3 hours. And that's starting now.
I like to have my Google timer running for 3 hours so I don't lose track of how long it's been doing this. And then I also like to have a second timer going for 30 minutes because every 30 minutes for that 3 hours, we're going to do a turn. Okay, Google, set a timer for 30 minutes.
Second timer for 30 minutes. Starting now.
Fantastic. What else are we saying? Okay, if you don't have any of those options of having a warm environment to bulk ferment your bread in, you can just leave it on your counter for a longer period of time. So 3 to 4 hours is to let it get that full flavor and that rise. So if you're in a slightly cooler kitchen, just give this stage a little more time. And we'll do about an hour of turns together. And then I will show you guys what to do at the end of that stage with the shaping and all of that. I might go live later. We might take a break in the middle and then I'll go live a little bit later when we're ready to do our shaping stage. And then I can show you the options for after that. Don't get worried. It'll be okay. We got this. It's super simple. So right now we're in the bulk fermentation phase. This is when your dough starts to like bubble and rise. And I'm going to catch up to all your comments because I wasn't reading them. You can't watch that movie, but am aware of the issues with our younger women and kids being kidnapped for trafficking purposes. 100%. It's been very prevalent on TikTok and social media of the awareness of what's going on. And living as close to the border as I do, we hear about the warnings of what could possibly happen, or what the key indicators of being targeted. So if you're going to a grocery store and there's something on your windshield, or something blocking the handle of your car, to ignore it. If there's a $20 bill like underneath of your windshield wiper, that's a big one where you have to get out of your vehicle and you're being profiled, you're being watched. Just like completely ignore it, drive away, drive to a police station kind of thing. So it's definitely a very real reality for a lot of people. And I'm so glad it's getting the awareness and attention it needs to, because it's a poignant issue. It's happening all over. Hope you don't miss much. Got to make a call for your niece. Be back as soon as I can. You won't miss a lot. Don't worry. We're going to sit here for another 30 minutes and just chit chat. What was I saying? Oh, let's talk about a rundown of what we've done so far and what's to come. So we've done the mixing. We mixed our dough. Now we're in the bulk fermentation phase where it's going to rise. After that is the pre-shape of our dough. So we start to turn it into the loaf that it's going to be when we bake it. After that is the bench rest or proofing stage, where it's going to either sit on your counter for 2 to 4 hours, depending on the temperature, depending on how sour you want your dough. And then after that, or you can proof it in the refrigerator. So after we shape it, you can either proof it on the counter to bake the same day, or you proof it in your refrigerator overnight for 8 to 12 hours. And then you bake it. You can bake it straight from the refrigerator cold, or straight from the counter that you let it sit and rise for the final proof on. I haven't really found a difference between the two of sitting on your counter or in the refrigerator. It's not, there's not a better version. It just depends on how much time you have and how quickly you want your bread. Talked about the temperature to get it to rise. those alternatives. Right now, in most places, it's summer, it's warm. You're not going to need the proofing in your oven or something. I just like it for the consistency and being able to stick it in there and not have to worry about it. But most of us can just deal with it on our counter. What else? What else? I'm trying to go over all the things that I've learned about baking bread. Oh, let's talk about the baking stage, because I've recently learned so many things about this. All right, this is option 1. You can bake your sourdough in a bread pan. And if you have a bread pan this size, when we get to the shaping stage, you can cut your dough in half and then shape 2 separate loaves. And with a pan this size, because of the amount of dough we're making right now, you're going to want to do that. Depending on how big your vessel is for baking it, depends on how you shape your dough. So you need 2 of these. I only have 1, but you'll need 2 because you want to stack one on top for the baking. So this is option 1 of what you can bake in. Option 2 is a Dutch oven. Let me show you. I don't know. Oh, it's all the way back there. I don't want to get that. I'll get this one. So this is my bread Dutch oven. It's my Le Creuset. I just bought it. I'm super proud of it. But this isn't what a regular Dutch oven looks like. But a Dutch oven is one of the better ways to cook your bread, because it has extra room to rise and kind of fill out. And this is how you're going to get that round, crusty, nice looking loaf. And this is dirty. I need to wash this before. But you put an ice cube in here when you're baking to get more moisture in this when you're baking it. So you bake it in 2 parts. You bake it for 20 minutes with the lid on. After 20 minutes, you take the lid off. And in that first 20 minutes with that ice cube with that moisture in there is where the crust really starts to develop and look beautiful. That crispy brown kind of crunchy gorgeousness. So that's what the Dutch oven does. And you can do a similar thing with the bread pans. It's just a little bit harder to get an ice cube in there because of how much space it's going to take up in those bread pans. There isn't a lot of gap. Not recommending anybody go out and buy a Le Creuset. I told myself I had to make 10 loaves of bread before I bought that because it is way too expensive. No one actually needs one, but I do love it. And it prints Le Creuset now on the bottom of my bread. And now I have that. That's a thing. You've heard also a white piece of material tied on your outside door handle means that you have been chosen for kidnap, so walk back into the mall and call the police. I've heard that too. There's a lot. There's they'll leave something on your tire, they'll leave something on your handle, they'll leave something on your windshield, and all of those are like a mark that you're being tracked, you've been targeted. Thank you. I love it too. I don't remember where I got it, but it's a cute little. Honestly, everyone needs an apron. Aprons are fantastic, especially if you're like hosting a party and you want to get dressed, but you don't want to get dirty. Boom, apron. I'm very excited for Thanksgiving this year because I will be able to wear my apron all day. That's it. That's the main reason I'm excited for hosting. Sorry, I had to finish eating my breakfast. What else is there to talk about bread? We should start to brainstorm other types of bread we can make together. What do we think? What kind of bread do we want to make? And also, in 3 hours, what time will it be? Because after our first 30-minute turn here. I'll show you guys how to do it. We'll take a break and then we'll come back at the pre-shape and collectively do that together. Let me try to figure out what time that is going to be. So 11, 12, 1, 2. 2 p.m. I believe that's going to be 2 p.m. my time. So figure out what that is for your time in 3 hours from now. And I will make another live and we will do the pre-shape phase. Cinnamon raisin bread. Ooh, that sounds delicious. I vote for that. Yep. I've never made cinnamon raisin bread, but that sounds absolutely fantastic. Let me get... Ooh, I have a full cookbook of just breads. Let's see if I have a recipe for cinnamon raisin bread. Oh, focaccia. I want to make a focaccia. Cinnamon rolls. Oh man, I made homemade cinnamon rolls. They are the best thing in the entire world. If you love cinnamon rolls, you will love making homemade cinnamon rolls. So we're going to do that one. We're going to do that one. Ooh, beer pretzel rolls. That sounds good. I do really like the idea of committing to just making this a full baking channel. I'm wholeheartedly in. We went from reselling to baking. Orange walnut, espresso, chocolate marble bread, banana bread, peanut butter, zucchini brunch bread, chocolate popovers, harvest quick bread, applesauce bread. I'm hungry now. Let's see. What are we looking for? Cinnamon raisin. Cinnamon baked donuts with cinnamon glaze. Cinnamon nut bubble ring. Cinnamon rolls. Oatmeal raisin nut bread. I think oatmeal raisin nut bread might be the closest thing we get to cinnamon raisin bread. So let's see. If this satisfies your fancy for cinnamon raisin bread, let me know because we can make it. We'll do it. I'll get a little bookmark. I'll get a little sticky note. I'll be right back. I don't have any sticky notes down here, so we're going with bread or paper towels. Paper towels mark our bread. Soft pretzels. I like the idea of once a month we're going to do this. Maybe we can make it twice a month depending on, how we figure out the time. But we got to figure out what the best day to do it is and what the best time to do it for everyone is. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these instructions, and I'm going to make them into a separate video on its own to cut out all of the gap time and just make like a tutorial out of the lives. So for anyone that wants to rewatch it, they don't have to sit and do all of the waiting. They can just pause the video and fast forward since they didn't get to be a part of the rewatch. But if you're a part of the rewatch, I thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for rewatching. I just know that some people like to just get to the good stuff in the instructions. So I'll do more of an instructional style video of the live. But yeah, I am 100% down to bake live like this, to cook live more. We will do all of the things. It'll be so much fun. And I thought about this the other day about how I went from not really knowing how to cook anything, and now I'm at where I'm at, and how much of a, not an F-U, but like a karma. This is karma for my ex-stepmom because she was a fantastic bake and cook, but she's a terrible person. And now I am baking on YouTube. And maybe one day it'll be my living. And she still is a terrible, miserable person. So, do. What's a sopalapas? Sopalapas? Looks delicious. Irish soda bread. Muffins. Do we want to make muffins? Biscuits. Cheese biscuits. Scones. Oh, this book has everything. Honey, pick a number between 1 and 150.
94.
Peanut butter chocolate chip lover bread. I guess. Okay, we'll add it to the queue. We'll add it to the queue of what we're going to make. And look at that. Just like that, we've only got 15 minutes left before our next turn. So 2 p.m., I'll go live again. I'll go live a little bit before then just so we can prep our surfaces and go through the whole shebang. So like 1:45. So keep an eye out. I don't know if I can make it right now. Yeah, I have to exit out of the YouTube live studio to create another live, but I'll go and schedule it right after this one so that you can benchmark it and get a notification when I go live. But right around 1:45 in 2 hours, 45 minutes from now, I will go live again. But until then, in 15 minutes, we will do our turn and chit chat more about bread. I'm excited for what it's going to turn out. I've only made one loaf. I made 2 loaves now in my new Le Creuset. And the first one, I can't use parchment paper at the bottom to get the little ridges that I want. And I learned that the hard way. And I was afraid. I was very afraid to bake it without using the parchment paper because I didn't want it to stick to the bottom. But I think I have the confidence now. I think I have the confidence to just bake it in there. It's going to be okay. We're going to do it. It's going to go fantastically. And then scoring your dough. Scoring your dough is also incredibly fun to do. You can use a knife or you can use a little blade. They have scoring tools. I've cut myself on mine before, so be very careful if you have a scoring tool. But different decorations that you can do on your dough, that's something I'm still playing with and learning and figuring out, but those are really fun too. You can do a bunch of pretty designs. I think I'm going to bake mine today. I think I have to because we're leaving tomorrow at like 6 a.m. to go to my cousin's house. So I have to bake today. So I might do a video short on the scoring and I will post that later. But scoring is not hard. Scoring, you just basically start cutting your bread and then it blooms in the oven, right? It rises in the oven and then those separate to create a design. It's very interesting. Oh, I was going to make cookies too. All right. If you want to make cookies with me later, we're taking out our butter now from the fridge because you have to have softened butter. So take out a cup of butter or whatever substitute and an egg and let those rest on the counter. And then when we come back, we will shape our bread and also make cookies. I have found that this recipe I have for cookies, they are the best darn cookies I've ever made. They are absolutely delicious. are a hit at every party. Every person that's ever had them is like, oh my gosh, this is the best cookie I've had in my entire life. And I think the reason is this recipe, but also, so I'll read you the instructions and I will show it to anybody that wants to try and like screen grab it now, but I will write the instructions in the description of the second video that we're going to do later today. But it shows you step by step how to incorporate things in a much more detailed way than most recipes do. It breaks it down in layman's terms, which I need. I'm not a professional bake. I can't just look at a recipe and understand what's happening. So this one breaks down into the essentials of why we're incorporating things the way we do and the slowness of incorporation. So it's 2 different types of flour. We're going to use all-purpose in bread flour for the cookies. And then we're splitting the way we incorporate the wet and dry into a different method. So it makes it incorporate different. I don't know what the science is. I just follow the recipe and they're darn good cookies. Baking carrot cake. It's 4:25 a.m. in Sydney. That sounds like a fantastic morning. I love carrot cake. Let me tell you, that is one of my favorite things. I don't know what it is. If it's like the nutmeg, the whatever that flavor combination is. I love vegetable sweet things. Zucchini bread, delicious. Carrot cake, absolutely fantastic. Pumpkin pie, my favorite thing in the entire world. So it's Monday for you. It's Monday. It's Monday and you don't have Tuesday off because it's not 4th of July in Australia. I love this morning for you. Now, the real question, did you wake up early to bake your carrot cake or have you been up all night and you're making carrot cake? Because either way, I'm supportive. I'm a fan. What is your favorite carrot cake recipe as well? Because if there is a better place to go hunting down recipes, I want to know. I just kind of Google it and pick the first one off the internet. Very lazy way to pick ingredients or pick recipes. I also think, what do you guys think about this? Let me know. I want to create a stockpile of all of the recipes that I found and that we're going to bake together. And so I can kind of pair them with the video. I don't know what the copyright is the wrong term for this, but if I'm just making a recipe off of the internet and I make it into a blog or something, I'd have to credit the person that I'm taking it from, obviously, but I don't know what the rules are against publishing like my own blog with the video on it. I'm not entirely sure how that works, but I do want to create some sort of like members only section potentially with all of the recipes and the videos that we're making. And the only reason I say I would make it members only is so that we could kind of have a community conversation and I could block people if they were becoming rude or, as things grow, as channels grow, you get haters, you get spam, you get all of those things. You need moderators, yada, 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 as my mom will tell you. Pumpkin pie. It's Tuesday morning. You just got up and I motivated you. Oh, good. I am so glad you created your own. That's even more fantastic. And see, then we can share things like that as well. So we can have all of those kind of recipes within this little section of the internet, our little nook. We'll call it our little nook, our kitchen nook. We still got to figure out what our collective name is for all of my minions. I can call you hooligans. That's my favorite word. I love hooligans. Mischief makers. It's too wordy. Too wordy. I don't know. I really like hooligans. We'll have to teach your mom to bake. She's going to be here next week, so I might be able to convince her to do a live with me. If I become a professional baking channel, she's going to have to be on my channel. And I think teaching her how to do things in the kitchen is going to be hilarious. She's also one of those, like, you tell her once, she just tries to go at it. That's how our brains work. We're very, like, hands-on, need to move fast. And the way I can picture myself learning recipes and all of this stuff and doing things in the kitchen is exactly how she's going to do things. And it's comedy. It's pure comedy gold. It's going to be fantastic. And then we add White Claws to it. Drunk cooking. Amazing. Amazing. I'm going to teach Rachel too next week, the week after. I don't even know. I don't even know what my plans are for July, but it's already booked out. But Rachel is going to come stay with me for a week, and maybe I'll get her to do a live baking with me too. And we'll make something from our little catalog. Off trying to find your baking powder. Good luck. I wish you good luck. I did recently do a deep dive. I think, was it on a live? Trying to figure out what the difference between baking soda and baking powder was. I think it was the level of bicarbonate that's in it. Don't quote me on that, though. We finally finished our coffee for the day, which means we're ready. We're ready to wash all the dishes from my party yesterday in my sink. I'm not ready. I'm never ready for that. What is our timer at? We've got 3 minutes. We've got 3 minutes before our turn. I showed my friends that came over last Thursday. Oh man, this week flew. Thursday they came over, we made bread, and it was their first time ever making bread. They were very overwhelmed with the process, and their loaves turned out great. It was wonderful, better than my first loaf. But they were very excited on the process. I don't think that they want to start on their own and branch off of having their own starter and having that responsibility yet, but are definitely coming back for a second time and making more bread because of how fun it was. So let that be your indicator of success metrics and excitement. And if you're not baking bread with us today, I'm excited for you to bake bread in the future. Come back to this, bookmark this, or have the shorter video that I make as a tutorial from this in your docket and repertoire. Carolyn, ice cream does me the way your husband in the hormones they give the cows. Oh, it's the hormones they give the cows. Oh, that makes sense. I can see that. Has anyone read, I think it's Silent Spring is the name of the book. And they talk a lot about the food that we're eating. And even if we're buying organic, the soil that we grow things in, because it's been so over harvested, over pasteurized, what's the word I'm looking for? Sprayed for years and years and years. The life cycle of our soil, even if it is an organic crop, it can come from a previous crop that was not organic. And the nutrients that we're getting from our food is so diminished because we are just trying to pump as much food out of the dirt as humanly possible. And the soil is it takes like 20, 30 years for it to get rid of any pesticides that were used on it previously. And it also is not being refertilized enough to the point where it's enriched to grow the full nutrients of the food that we need. Not to mention the GMOs and things that we're using to accelerate the growth of food over the total impact of the food that we're eating. It's a very interesting deep dive, and it goes into the fish. If we're using insecticides to get rid of bugs and then the fish eat those bugs, the insecticide is actually transferred and multiplied within the fish because of how the digestive system works. So the fish actually has an exponential amount of the insecticide and poison in it from the bugs and insects that it's eating. And then if there's another kind of trail of, okay, this is a bad example, but a bear, if a bear eats that fish, now the bear has an exponential amount of the insecticide in it. And then let's say we eat the bear, right? That's not a common thing that we're eating, but I can't think of a better example right now. Now we're ingesting an exponential rate of that insecticide from the original fly or bug that the fish ate. So it's a very, time to turn. Okay, Google, stop. It's a very terrifying insight into our food industry and what we're actually eating and consuming and why disease is so prevalent, why cancers are so prevalent, why we can't seem to get ahead of all of these things, because the food that we're eating, we're so far gone with our industrial and farmland that it will take so much more to reverse all of that, but we're focused more on the profits of it versus the actual health of our, it's a spiral. It's a spiral. But Silent Spring is the name of the book if you're interested. All right. We got our bread. I'm going to wash my hands really fast. All right. Uncover our bread. Here's what mine looks like now. And the reason we don't want to use tap water in our dough is because the chemicals and the hard water and the chlorine in tap water kills the starter, just as an FYI. But here we go. We're going to turn it. So 1 turn, 3 movements. I'm going to, let's see if I can. Okay. So I'm going to kind of like scoop off the bottom here. And then I'm going to pull it up. Remember, don't let it tear. You want it to be one cohesive piece of dough still. Then I turn my bowl. Do it again. Grab from the bottom. Lift it up. We're going to pull, kind of stretch it. Don't let it tear. Fold it over on itself. And I'll do another one where you can kind of see. Pull from the bottom. And you always want to fold over onto itself where the seams are building up, if that makes sense. So always pull towards you and fold towards you. So we grab that, pull it up, then fold towards myself. And what these turns do, get down there, is start to build the layers and put bubbles into the dough. That's a good thing. We want bubbles. Now we're going to cover her up again. Put her back in the oven for 30 more minutes. So I'm going to leave you here, but for set timers, every 30 minutes for the next 2.5 hours, you're going to do that same thing. Do 1 turn. And then I will see you again at 1:45. We will flour down our work surfaces and we will shape our dough together. And then we will leave it for 4 more hours before it bakes. So thank you all for being here. I appreciate every single one of you. I'm excited to see all of our bread together, and I will see you guys a little bit later. I will go create the live that you can bookmark right after this. So keep an eye out for that. I will see you guys later.